Hey guys, Man here for another deck profile, and as you can see, we are actually looking at a really weird deck that I actually found by accident, and some of the people that I talk with on the Digimon Hatchery TCG Discord, basically, we were like talking about this deck for a bit, and we're like wondering, how does this deck work? And then I actually went and built it, and it's actually pretty crazy. This deck relies a lot on Blast Evolving, so it feels a lot like Deva, but less complicated because Deva requires you to just kind of like have a lot of stuff in trash while doing other stuff. Well, I don't know. It's like with Deva, there's always like some kind of weird thing with it. Maybe it's just I just don't know how to play it honestly. But like I feel this deck is like way more dirt simple. Plus, at the same time, I noticed that Deva has a super over reliance on specifically getting Fanglong out, basically. But after it gets out Fanglong, it doesn't really have a game plan after that. It still can like check and do damage, but even then, it's like once you run out of Fanglongs, you can't really do anything. This deck runs, I believe, like 9 to 10 Omnimons, so you always have a way, like you always cycle through your deck super fast, and you have a way to go into a level 7 and just keep going from there because you can recur stuff. This build does also run one copy of Apocalypse because of the restriction, but it's still a really cool card because when you draw it, you're like, okay, you play it down, you equip it with everything, and then it forces your opponent to deal with it while you still have like 3 different other threats on the board. So it's actually really crazy that it forces your opponent to have to like do something, because if they can't within like 3-4 turns, they're basically dead because you can potentially swing or disrupt them enough that they can't really recover from it, which is really crazy. Like, I was not expecting this. This deck is actually able to hold its own against the brand new Rapidmon, Gargo Terriermon deck, the double Typhoon deck. It's actually able to slow it down a bit because their over reliance on the ace allows us to actually hurt them in the long run, because a lot of the Digimon, specifically one of your main Digimon in this deck, does do de-Digivolving just by swinging, so it actually hurts them from being able to Blast Evolve. So if you can set that up, they basically can't disrupt your plays, which is really cool. But yeah, let's actually get into the deck so I can show you what I mean. So first off, for the egg, we only run one egg, and it's specifically Mother Reaper. Mother Reaper is only here for 2 specific reasons, and it's specifically so it can be deleted off of the level 5s, and basically there to set up the option card, the only option card that we run in the deck, which is X Program. So it's just there for that and nothing more. Yeah. For level 5s, we run a few. We run basically all the ones that say that basically do the exact same effect, except they all have different inherits. Basically, the same effect is that they search the top 4 and grab anything level 2 cards that are level 6 or higher, and then they delete something. They delete a Digimon at the end of the turn to play a Dartmaster into your breeding area. So basically, they all have that same exact effect, and they can delete themselves to set up the Dartmaster, which is really cool. And of course, as I mentioned, they do have different inherits. So I'll show you them once we for each one when I go through them. So first, we run 4 of the Gigadramon for BT15. This one, as I said, has the effect of searching the top 4, adding 2 level 6s, and then end of turn you can delete this to basically place a Dartmaster. Its inherit is Reboot, which is really cool because you can potentially give an Omnimon Reboot after it swings and survives a check. So pretty cool. Then we run 4 of Cherrymon, which does the exact same thing, except that its inherit is Piercing. So giving your Omni or your Puppetmon or whatever Piercing is pretty hilarious. So pretty solid. We don't really run Puppetmon in this deck, but it's mainly we actually Blast Evolve into something and give it Piercing, so that's kind of cool. Then we run 2 of the Lady Devimons because she does the same thing, but she gives Retaliation. So if you can somehow set up a blocker on the field, this gives it Retaliation, which is really cool. Then for the last level 5, we run Scorpiomon, which does the exact same thing as I mentioned with all these guys, except he gives Blocker. This one I feel is a little bit more crucial because giving Blocker is actually really good, but at the same time, one of our level 6s already has it by default, so He's not as important anymore after a few changes I did. As you can see, we run exactly 12, so it's kind of like these are basically like the rookies that you want to see. And with 12, you're basically guaranteed to see them no matter what, which is really nice because then you get to just kind of hard play them past turn, or in most cases when you're playing this deck, just like with the David deck, you want to draw your Tamer on turn 1. That way you can set up these. Basically, especially you want your memory setting Tamer. That way you can set up and just go off from there. And it bypasses a lot of things because we don't really use anything that reduces cost or requires a lot of memory. We just want to set up our memory Tamer and then hard play and pass to 3 with this, just so we can set up a Dart Master in breeding, which basically no card in the game can basically stop at the moment. So you basically are free and clear as long as this dies or uses it, or these use their end of turn effects to kill themselves to basically put a Dart Master here in raising. That's basically all the level 5s we run. For level 6s, we run a few. We run the Dart Masters and then a bunch of Ace Digimon to basically Blast Evolve on top of these guys. And as you can see, we have the colors of black, green, purple, and blue. So we have a pretty giant variety of cards that we can use. But the ones that I have so far are basically the best ones you can at this point get. Some like a lot of the other aces are really good, but at the same time, not all of them are like the best. So I just picked ones that would actually benefit me, like on my turn, maybe like passing my turn or blocking something or whatever. So I went with those. For Dart Masters, we run, of course, 4 of the Piedmons. For people that don't know what Piedmon did, because basically Apocalypse got slaughtered, so nobody basically bothered to build the deck. On play and when attacking, he can just delete an unsuspended Digimon. And of course, every Dart Master has the clause of it can only evolve into a white Digimon. So basically, everything level 7 and above is all white specifically because of these Dart Masters. And then end of turn, end of the opponent's turn specifically, if this guy's still alive, he deletes himself and plays a Dart Master out on the field for free. And he does grant retaliation, which is really nice. So if you can get Apocalypse out with him, you basically give it retaliation and blocker with the Metal Seedramon, so it's pretty solid. Then we run 3 of the Machine Dramon that basically has almost the exact same effects, except that it's when attacking and on play is D-Digivolve 2, which can potentially hurt opponents like Ace monsters. Also, end of turn, it does the same thing and plays a Dart Master by deleting itself. And then, of course, its inherent is giving Reboot, so you can give basically you can give an Omnimon Reboot, which is really crazy. Then the last Dart Master we run is 2 Metal Seedramon. This way, Metal Seedramon's honestly my favorite, along with Paimon, or just honestly all 3 of them are really nice. I really like how they work. This one, on play and when attacking, it can basically bounce a level 5 or lower, which is really cool. And then it has the same exact clause, except that for its inherit, it gives blocker. So pretty solid, honestly. All these Dart Masters basically almost do the exact same thing. It's just slight variety, as you can see. But yeah, that's basically all the Dark Masters that we run. The rest of them are specifically Ace monsters. First off, for the first Ace, we of course are running the brand new Mega Gargomon Ace, because this card is honestly too good not to run in this deck, because it does so much and can disrupt your opponent so badly that they basically can't continue their turn. I've actually been able to stop my opponent multiple times with this because it suspends all basically 2 of their guys that they would have been using. Then it also unsuspends itself. Along with that, it also basically forces them so that they can't digivolve. That's the most broken part, because Digimon still relies, like the game itself relies on the idea of evolving your Digimon up to do more combos and more effects. But when you stop that, the deck, basically any deck basically loses its momentum and they can't really do anything. The best part is that it also has blocker and reboot, so you can swing twice with this because of its end of attack effect where it unsuspends itself. But once it does that, then you basically just reboot and it's still a giant blocker. Even if they get rid of it, you give them, 4 memory, that's fine. In a Megazoo deck, you don't really care about memory, so it's not that big of an issue with an Ace monster. But yeah, we run 3 copies because it's like the most disruptive Ace we have at the moment. Then we run 2 Azulongmons. This one is there to also bounce level 5s or higher, but also on deletion, it can basically delete one of your opponent's highest level. So basically, if they end up deciding to kill this, you basically give them an eye for an eye at that point. So you run 2 copies because mainly because you only have 2 blues, so that way you're basically only evolving it on the Scorpiomon at this point. So yeah. Then we run, for the last ace, we do run 2 Metal Garurumon aces. This obviously is for Lady Devimon, because sometimes you will be leaving her or Scorpio on the field or any of these on the field. So it's better to have 1 ace for basically every color. That way you can use them and kind of do stuff. Metal Garurumon Ace is one of my favorite aces, mainly because of the fact that he can just pass it to your turn. So if your opponent already overindulged and they're at like 1 or 0, you just discard 3 cards, which actually does help this deck set up a bit, especially discarding any of the Dart Masters. You basically just go, okay, it's my turn, and then when swinging, you can delete something. You basically trash something to delete Digimon at the lowest level. So if they only have 1 guy, you're basically deleting their ace and they can't do anything about it. So pretty solid. That's all the level 6s we run. We're getting into the level 7s where it's basically all Omnis and like 1 Apoc. So we run the 4 Zwarts. Zwart is still a really good card because the fact that he can just mill 3 cards for you, but at the same time, once he does that, he can play up to 2 black or purple Digimon out. So basically, your targets are going to be Gigadramon and Lady Devi, and both of their effects will trigger. So you get to search 8 cards and add 4 cards in the process. So very solid of a search. And of course, when swinging, he can return a card back to your hand, so you can basically like return back like an ace that you didn't want for him to die with, so that way you don't lose any memory, which is really cool. I love that effect because if they don't kill the ace, you evolve it into Zwart, and then you go, okay, cool, I'll swing, and then I'll return it to hand, and then that way you don't get punished for it. But yeah, he's still very solid even in this format, which is really weird. Then we run 4 Zwart defeats because A, he's a security Digimon that can pop out from security and hurt your opponent. But you can Digivolve this on basically, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 of your level 6s. And the best part is that when Digivolving, he deletes an opponent's Tamer, and then on deletion, he deletes a Digimon. So if they decide to try and get rid of him, he just punishes them for it. So you have to run at least 4 copies because that way you can also evolve a Omni X or Merciful Mode on top of him or him. So it's really cool. Then we run 2 X's because with this, if you have a Zwart defeat and then you evolve this on top, you basically can stop 1 attack in the process. But also when attacking, you can delete anything with 15,000 DP or lower. So he is really good removal at the same time. And of course, he can evolve on top of an Omni for 3 costs instead of 6, thanks to his effect. Then we have 2 Merciful Modes because Merciful Mode can basically go on any of these Omnis. And then at the same time, he can delete up to the amount, usually 2 to 3 if you do the stack correctly. And if you do that, then you basically remove their board and you get to bottom deck 10 of the cards that they might have really wanted. This works incredibly well against purple. And this was one of the key cards back when Apocalypse was still at like 4. This card basically stopped it from going off. So you need to run at least 2 of this to stop all the purple decks, and it actually does do pretty well against Rapidmon and Gargomon because one of their tamers, Henry, requires you to have a Rapid and a Gargomon in trash to warp. So this actually stops them from warping, and then this also presents a problem because if they don't get rid of this, they lose a security stack. So they have to address it, which is really cool. Then for the last level 7, we run 1 Apocalypse because A, this is a Dart Master kind of focused deck, or half of it basically. So having 1 Apocalypse is actually pretty cool because it actually forces your opponent to have to deal with him. He's still really strong even with the hit to 1, because if you get this in hand, you know your main goal is to either you're basically going to the Dart Masters but also blast evolving to kind of stall them, and then you're going to be milling them for cards and equipping a card per turn. So if they don't get rid of this, they're going to get decked out. So it's really cool having just 1 copy because then it's like that one game changer that can basically win you the game. That's basically all the Digimon in the deck. As you can see, we're running a lot of Omnis and like 1 Apoc, and we also run a ton of little 6s, so pretty crazy. It's a very Megazoo type deck, but that's one of the decks I started with, so I'm kind of already used to it. So it's not really big of an issue to just like slam down one of these. Honestly, I've done it before, but mainly you do want to go with the level 5s to help you search. For the rest of the deck, we only have options and tamers. We just run the 1 X program, because X program basically wipes the board of anything that isn't X antibody when you hard play it. But in security, it just deletes one of your opponent's Digimon without the X antibody. So potentially you can use this to kill the Digimon that was about to swing and kill you for game. And then along with that, the fact that you can just play it because you have a white source from there and some of your tamers. So it's a really good board wipe, but it's also a really good card to help you get rid of like one target. Then for Tamers, we run two analog boys because this guy helps us kind of search our deck a little bit more alongside these. And it does help us regain memory and hatch an egg, or in this case, hatch another new Mother Reaper to push out next turn. So yeah, we run at least two. I was trying it at 3 or 4, but the problem is that it tends to kind of mill too many of your cards, and you do want to see your cards as often as possible. So I'd rather get more of these than having an analog boy, honestly. Then we run one Ty and Matt because if your opponent doesn't pay attention, honestly, and they make a level 6, you're going to be getting an extra 2 memory. Plus, since you have basically the deck is built around Omni swinging, you're basically getting an extra security check no matter what with them. So you got to have a. So this does also help, but it also allows you to play the X program alongside because these are mainly white tamers. Then the last two cards are the two tamers of TK and Kari, or sorry, TK specifically. This one is specifically to just grab stuff out of your security, but also to set your memory. So potentially you can just grab a Pockley from there, or you can grab a level 5 that you need to search, or if you see like that one's word that you need to go for the next combo or one of these, you grab it. It does make it so you can't really recover security, sadly. The only yellow target in this deck would be a Zulong, so the only time you really get the healing would be a Zulong. But at the same time, you basically help yourself set up, so it's not that big of a deal because you go like this, grab one of these or something, you go to 3 basically, or pass them to 3, then you go, okay, cool, then I'll play this, pass them to exactly the 3 amount, and then you go, okay, then I search, equip a Dart Master, and you just keep going from there. This deck is actually really crazy. Like, originally when I first looked at it, I'm like, there's no way this deck works properly. Like, it doesn't work. Like, the original build did not run this many aces. The newer build that I remember seeing runs more, and I decided to start with these as like the main ones. And the deck actually becomes way faster and way stronger because almost every turn you have a Digimon that can swing compared to, like, let's say a stack deck where you'd have to build up into something. And not only that, is that a lot of decks don't really have a counter to de-digivolving or stopping them from evolving, so they basically can't really do anything for that turn once you disrupt them with either this or like Metal Guru Ace or like any of these. The disruption really hurts them, so they can potentially stall for a turn or two, and that gives you a chance to kind of go for a game with this deck specifically. But yeah, aside from that, yeah, this deck is really weird. As you can see, this is just my own personal version. I overindulged a bit on the Mega Gargo because I just love the fact that he can just suspend stuff and make it so they can't evolve. That's like one of the best effects in the game at the moment because, as I mentioned, any deck that can't evolve is basically shut down. So you basically can't do anything for that turn, which I love. Aside from that, yeah, it's just really cool that I can finally play Zord Defeat at 4 again because I used to do that in my security control and I never really used it until after that, aside from like Black War Greymon. So it's really cool to be able to actually use the Omnis that I've accumulated for the last like what 10, 15 sets. So pretty cool. Aside from that, as usual, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you thought of this deck, and I'll see you guys next time.